A very good afternoon to all. As India is set to host the G20 summit in the Bharat Mandapam, we are very delighted to host this webinar on assessment of India's G20 presidency. And this webinar is being organized by the Indo-Pacific Circle in partnership with the Department of International Studies, Stella Maris College, Chennai. I will also take this opportunity to introduce the Indo-Pacific Circle, which is a diverse network of early and mid-career scholars and thought leaders from the Indo-Pacific region. These thought leaders are engaged in shaping the emergent narratives of the region and amplifying regional voices across the globe. Today, we have with us two very eminent scholars as our panelists. Dr. Nanda Kishor is an associate professor at the Department of Politics and International Studies, Pondicherry University, and formerly the head of the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. He has an MPhil and PhD in political science from Hyderabad Central University and has been teaching geopolitics and Indian foreign policy, concept of war and peace, and terrorism. The second panelist that we have today is Ms. Sanchari Ghosh. Ms. Ghosh is a PhD candidate at the Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University, Kolkata. Her research interests include India's maritime strategy, Indian Ocean, and the Indo-Pacific. I would now request Dr. Aarti Santhanam ma'am, who is the Honorable HOD of Stella Maris College, to take over and introduce their esteemed institution, followed by an introduction of the theme.
Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to one and all who have gathered here this afternoon, and a warm welcome to our esteemed speakers of the day and the co-organizers on behalf of Stella Maris College and the Department of International Studies. Stella Maris College is a 75-year-old all-women's institution founded by the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. Founded on August 15, 1947, we share the Independence Day with India and has been dedicated to women's education and empowerment at both regional and national levels. The Department of International Studies at Stella Maris is one of the pioneering departments of higher art, founded in 2002 as the only such department offered in Tamil Nadu at that time, and thereafter has interface with experts and scholars in IR and have ensured consistent interactions and discussions with erudite scholars and practitioners of international relations, diplomats, etc. Today, we are indeed delighted to be joining hands with the Indo-Pacific Circle for this discussion on G20, and I take immense pleasure in inviting our panelists, Dr. Nanda Kishor, Associate Professor, currently with Pondicherry University and formerly with Manipal University. Welcome to the panel, sir, and we are really looking forward to hearing from you. Our next panelist is Ms. Sanchari Ghosh, research scholar from Jadavpur University, and we are happy to have you here with us this afternoon too, Sanchari. We have had the pleasure of listening to experts like Dr. Shiva Chatterjee from Jadavpur a few years ago, and it's heartening to see the turn of young scholars like you. And I also welcome faculty and students from other city colleges. Thank you for joining us at such short notice. We have gathered to discuss and deliberate on India's G20 presidency with its theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. India's leadership reflects a commitment to promote global unity and cooperation to address various pressing challenges. I would like to highlight a few of those points. India's emphasis on inclusivity, acknowledging the importance of considering the needs and aspirations of the developing world, highlighting a commitment to addressing global challenges with a broad perspective. India recognizes the interconnectedness of global challenges such as COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain disruptions, climate change, food and energy security, geopolitical tensions, inflation, and debt crises, to name a few. This recognition demonstrates an understanding of the complexity of today's global issues and challenges. The Prime Minister's vision of an inclusive, ambitious, action-oriented, and decisive G20 agenda suggests a proactive approach to problem solving and a commitment to delivering concrete outcomes. India's success and experience, especially in areas like healthcare, technology, and economic growth, can provide valuable insights and solutions that benefit the broader global community. With the global economic slowdown and uncertainties, India's leadership in the G20 can play a crucial role in coordinating efforts to ensure economic stability and sustainable growth. The choice of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as the theme underscores the importance of unity and collaboration in addressing global challenges, which is particularly pertinent in an era marked by divisions and conflicts. In conclusion, India's G20 presidency appears to be characterized by commitment to inclusive, action-oriented leadership focused on addressing complex global challenges. Leveraging its experience in advocating for unity and cooperation, India has the potential to contribute significantly to finding solutions to the pressing issues facing the world today. With these few observations, I hand over the stage to the panelists. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now request Ms. Ghosh to take it over and start her presentation.
Well, thank you so much. A very good afternoon to the principal of Stella Maris College, to all the faculty members and the students of the Department of International Studies, my co-panelist, Dr. Nanda Kishor, good afternoon, sir, and to the entire team of Indo-Pacific Circle. Thank you so much for inviting me to the session. So I have structured my talk based on three aspects. First, I would like to give a snippet on the theme of G20 and its relevance. Secondly, I would like to talk a bit about the duality in India's world perception during its G20 presidency. And lastly, and most importantly, I would like to talk about India's hope to ward off this duality through the showcasing of its soft power. So by now, I think we all are familiar with the theme of India's G20 presidency, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. As apparently China has objected, we all know, to the use of this phrase because Sanskrit is not part of the UN official language. India clarified that it uses only the English version of this phrase, one earth, one family, one future. So if one takes a tour inside the newly built Bharat Mandapam complex, the place that will host India's G20 summit, one can see the artwork based on this theme. This artwork defines our concept of brotherhood. This architectural design is drawn from the country's primary art forms, textile traditions, yoga, and I think the theme is clear. It depicts the traditional Indian wisdom while also projecting present India. A country that harnesses solar power and a country that takes a leading role in world matters as well. So for India, I think it's a historic opportunity to showcase this vibrant culture, rich heritage, achievements, and its capabilities. So far, so good. But the problem, I think, lies elsewhere. The problem is that India's presidency comes at a time when the world has been gripped by uncertainties arising out of post-pandemic economic recession, ripple effects of the Russia-Ukraine war, which Sir is about to explain. And particularly if you talk about food and energy insecurity and long-standing problems such as climate change, terrorism, and xenophobic tendencies across the world. So in the context of this crisis and tensions, I would just like to quote one of the speeches by the PM during this year's one of the meetings. We all have our positions and perspectives on resolving these tensions. We should not allow issues we cannot resolve together to come in the way of those we can. He also said multilateralism is in crisis. I think multilateralism is in crisis is something to be pondered on. G20 presidency has been hailed by the Indian government to revitalize multilateral institutions that have been weakened due to prolonged geopolitical rivalries. And we can very well see the shift in India's stance vis-a-vis the G20. It is evident that under PM Narendra Modi, India has become more active in multilateral institutions as a whole and has shown an increased willingness to deliver global public goods. And India is so heavily investing in multilateral diplomacy, which is evident not only through G20, but also in the Quad. And this very well proves how India is taking bold departures from its traditional tenets of multilateralism. So before going to the discussion about the issue of soft power, I'll be talking about the second aspect. I think it is pertinent to point out also the dilemma that is present in India's foreign policy approach. It is argued that India is a status quoist which favors a very slow and incremental change in the international system, while it believes in a more democratic, orderly, and rules-based world order. It also recognizes that major systemic changes could also be sometimes accompanied by chaos. So India, therefore, likes slow, peaceful, and consensual transformation of the system, which of course is not what is happening today. In the past, India could bypass the responsibility of bringing about change in the multilateral institutions by arguing that these institutions lack proportionate representation of the global south. Therefore, as India now is actually in the leadership role of an influential grouping like G20, it's interesting to note that how it balances the duality of its role perception. So India's engagement in the G20 has panned out this duality very significantly, where we can also say that the G20 came up as a bridge between the global north and the global south as well. So within the larger universe of problems, India has focused on the priorities using the concept of the global south. So I think we'll see the role perception that whether India is identifying itself as the leader of the global south or as a newly emerged power, which belongs to the high table of international diplomacy. So when we talk of, and we move on to the third aspect of soft power, most importantly, I think as students, as scholars, and as analysts, we need to refer to the concept of soft power coined by Joseph Nye. It refers to a nation's ability to influence others and shape global events through non-coercive means, such as culture, diplomacy, values, and ideology, rather than through military or economic force. So soft power relies on culture, arts, science, and the diplomatic field. Soft power is built via, among others, educational diplomacy, science diplomacy, public diplomacy, and digital diplomacy as well. So if we talk about the achievements, that is the third part of my talk, that how we talk about the achievements of how India has leveraged its soft power. Firstly, it is incredible, I think, how India has prioritized public diplomacy and the organization of satellite events in various states during its presidency. G20 also focused on economic matters, and India aimed to effectively convey the investment opportunities present in each region and underscore the potential industries by hosting countries and their delegates in various states. And I think this promotes a positive narrative of development and progress. And when we especially talk about the regional approach to hosting G20 meetings, I think it offers an excellent opportunity to bolster, which we call subnational diplomacy. And it enables local governments and organizations to engage with international counterparts and showcase innovative policies, successful initiatives, and unique regional strengths. So this exchange of ideas and experiences can lead to collaborative partnerships and knowledge sharing, promoting economic development, sustainable practices, and cultural exchanges at the subnational level. Talking about it, also another point is that how G20 presidency has given center stage to India, reaffirming its position as a leading player in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. I think this plays a crucial role in strengthening the nation's identity as a world's pharma hub, and it allows India to focus on three priorities in healthcare. One is preventing and responding to health emergencies, strengthening cooperation in the pharmaceutical sector, in which India has built a good production base, and digitalizing health innovations aimed at universal coverage, and also digitalizing this particular thing. And in fact, during COVID-19 pandemic, we all have seen India's vaccine diplomacy was lauded worldwide, and was a positive step in justifying its tag of the pharmacy of the world. Also, the World Health Organization Traditional Medicine Global Summit towards health and well-being for all was held in Gujarat this year. It looks at the application of rigorous scientific methods to unlock the vast potential of traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine. If we look at the aspect of diaspora, the Indian diaspora, I think, is committed to harnessing our collective strength to foster inclusive growth, sustainable development, and social progress, as India continues to assume its global leadership position. So I think if we talk, or if we think about diaspora, it's a symbiotic growth to actually look at the role of the diaspora in this context. And the Indian diaspora, specifically NRIs or PIOs, they play a crucial role in enhancing India's soft power. Their contributions extend beyond the promotion of our culture at times. They have also advanced our foreign policy objectives. And in the past, numerous influential Indians residing in the USA, they made commendable efforts in persuading members in the USA to align with our perspective. And the Indian diaspora is increasingly becoming a valuable asset, with more of its members attaining success in diverse fields across different nations. I think this also brings us to look at the aspect of education as well. The G20 Education Working Group focused on 4 priority themes: ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, that is one. Secondly, leveraging digital technology, strengthening the relevance and linkages of education with the future of work, and promoting collaboration between higher education, research, development, and innovation within and across national boundaries. If we see the point where we talk about that, India has time and again also promulgated the idea of sustainable living and highlighted the issue of climate change. The primary objective of initiatives like Mission Life, as we know it as Lifestyle for Environment, that is actually to make the lifestyle of people environment friendly and sustainable. Mission Life, I think it carries the spirit of P3 model, that is pro-planet people, and the importance of life lies in encouraging use of sustainable alternatives to single-use plastics and prevention of littering, etc., which could very significantly contribute to clean and healthy oceans as well. And one more thing that is notable in this aspect is that when we talk of sustainable development, is that millet farmers, we know that millet farmers would showcase the incredible journey of millet cultivation in Orissa and its impact on empowering communities, especially women. And as we know, millet has been consumed by traditional Indian families for centuries. Food and Agriculture Organization and United Nations has recognized 2023 as International Year of Millets. So this is, I think this consolidates and pushes for global cooperation to promote millet in various ways, and it will increase awareness of the contribution of millets for food security and nutrition, and it can also inspire stakeholders to improve sustainable production and quality of millets. I think most importantly, if we look at the aspect of technology, India has effectively promoted its technological advancements through a cashless economy where even international visitors would get to experience digital India without the hassle of carrying cash. So UPI, as we all know, has become hugely popular for retail digital payments in India, and India is making substantial progress, I think, in extending the reach of its digital payment infrastructure to international markets as well. And like Europe is one of the most recent regions to embrace India's payment solutions. And NCPI has formed a partnership with the European Payment Services Facilitator with the aim of increasing the adoption of Indian payment methods throughout Europe. And this comes after similar partnerships with Singapore and Middle Eastern countries. So I would just stop here by saying that India has holistically tried to leverage its soft power during its G20 presidency, and it has, I think, it has not left any stone unturned to ward off its dilemmas and limitations in order to achieve its status on the world stage. So India recognizes the importance of soft power, which could complement its rising economic and military power to establish itself as a significant player in the world stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. That was a very insightful perspective on India's soft power, and especially how you brought in and actually demystified the concept of the Bharat Mandapam, linking it to India's foreign policy perspective. I would now request the students to please ask questions and interact with Ms. Ghosh.
Questions, please go ahead.
Please feel free to ask questions, get your doubts clarified. It's a wonderful opportunity to know, to learn. Are there no questions? Oh. I would request you to first introduce yourself and then proceed with the question. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee Vincent. I'm from second year postgraduation international studies. So, ma'am, thank you for your talk. It was actually very insightful. My question is, how has India's G20 presidency worked towards bridging the gender digital divide and enabling a larger role for women in decision making and as well as in leadership?
As I was talking about, can you hear me?
Yeah.
As I was talking about this particular I'm talking about millets farming and how also they are representing the women communities as well. And for gender dividing and the bridging the gap, I think they are also promoting education for women to a large extent. And also I think they're representing, they're trying their best to bridge the gap as far as gender is concerned.
We have Do we have any other questions?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, go ahead. Hello, ma'am. I'm Vaishnavi from International Studies first year. So India has been emphasizing heavily on digitalization. Along with that, we also have the issues of cyber threats, cyber attacks. So how is India tackling this issue?
Yes, for cyber threat, I think they are also working towards cyber threat through they are trying to solve the problems. What there are so many threats that are coming through cyber, and they're trying to actually increase the cyber security. Also working towards that, and they're definitely trying a lot to do this. And like there are so many cyber attacks also, that aims to gain unauthorized access or damage or disrupt and also it is affecting the information technology as well, so they're trying their best to solve this particular problem as well.
We also have a question from Mr. Abhishek Kumar. And we will request him to unmute himself, and please go ahead with the question. Abhishek? Okay, I'll try to connect with him again. I've requested him to type the question as well.
Somebody else has a question. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
While we can take another question from the college.
A very good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Stella Maris. I am currently pursuing my Master's in International Relations from Stella Maris College, and I am second year right now. So my question to you is, India is a country, India is one of the largest carbon emitters. So a country which is highly vulnerable to climate change and climate issues, how will India voice their policies? How will India voice their global, being a hegemon of global south in voicing the climate issues? Because India in herself is a very vulnerable country when it comes to climate policies and climate issues, global warming, with people dying because of heat wave in the eastern part of the country. So how does India give answer to that question? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this question. It's a very pertinent question, I think, when you talk of climate change, because India itself is a very vulnerable country, and you very rightly pointed that out. But I think India is doing quite a lot of things regarding climate change, because I think I was also talking about lifestyle for environment, and to make lifestyle of people environment friendly, and they are trying to promote as much as possible this climate change problems. And even if India is vulnerable, but India tries to be the voice for the global south, which we cannot forget. We cannot neglect the fact that there are other countries of global south which are even poorer, which are even they can't even reach out to the problems. So India is trying to be the voice. In one of the meetings, even PM Narendra Modi said that we are the voice of the global south. So they are trying their best to solve through these technologies, and they are taking up responsibility as well. India is trying to take responsibility as well through this mission I was talking about, life mission, and sustainable practices. India is such a rich country with sustainable practices. Its traditional practices, if you see the environmental practices that India actually promotes and India tries to voice through it.
Thank you so much, Sanchari, for answering that. Do we have more questions? I would also request the participants who are joining us online to feel free and ask questions.
How many participants have joined? Are there many from other colleges? Amba, we are not able to see them. There are 21 participants. You're muted, you're muted.
So we have around 10 who have joined, 17 who have joined from other colleges as well. So Mr. Abhishek has raised his hand for asking a question, but he's not.
Hello, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Hi, Abhishek. Thanks for joining.
Sorry for that technical glitch. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much for that insightful discussion. I have two small questions. I mean, we have talked a lot about positive aspects of G20 and what all India have done. I want to ask you, I think one question often gets neglected is that, I mean, is there any other aspect or any other domain where we could have worked or we should have worked, which we have left out? Because I'm sure an event of this big sort, any country tries to be highly encompassive and all inclusive in its approach. But is there anything that we have missed from your analysis? And my second question pertains to the an article that was published yesterday in the Indian Express. It says India versus China is also Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam versus One Belt, One Road initiative. How do you look at this statement? And yeah, these are my two questions. I was an ex-student of Pondicherry University. I've recently completed my master's, presently doing my internship from ICWA MEA. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. As far as your first question is concerned, is there any other aspect? I think India has taken a lot of issues at this moment, and if India can actually solve through, or India can actually solve these problems, that is enough, because there are so many aspects from so many angles, like climate change, education, technology, sustainable development, culture, and we also know about the traditional yoga part. So I don't think that at this moment, it's not coming to my mind with any other aspect. For your second question, could you please repeat once your India, China, and I just missed that particular part. Could you please repeat?
It pertains to an article which was published in the Indian Express yesterday. The heading of the article says, India versus China is also Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam versus One Belt, One Road initiative. I mean, how do you look this? How do you look at this statement?
Actually, we all know that China is not only now but in the past as well. China has always been a rival. So this is a scope. This is, I think, it's a scope for India to project India's identity. And when we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, always also the theme of G20, as I was talking about, I think projecting soft power, projecting a culture, it is not enough. Definitely, there is also increasing its military capabilities, economic capabilities. So as we know that like Xi Jinping is not present, and there are certain kinds of rivalries always present between India and China. But this is a scope for India to project its identity, because such kind of like when we talk of any culture, or projecting any kind of culture, or projecting any kind of theme which pertains to different kinds of traditional things and rich heritage and civilization ethos, which we say civilizational ethos. I think that is definitely a scope to project one's identity, and India is perfectly doing that. So that's how I think I see that. And as far as One Belt One Road approach, I mean, India is also trying to solve the problem. India is trying to look at it through different, like as I was talking about multilateralism, we have seen that India has changed so much, and India has tried to engage in unilateral platforms like Quad. So even BRICS, we have seen engagement in BRICS in the recent past. So so India is doing enough to do this, to solve problems, and also its engagement in multilateralism, and also as we're talking about G20 as well. So it's just to see, we need to see in the future how it actually it is yet to see, because it is just it has not even we have not even completed. In November the presidency would be over, so let's see how it takes the shape.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, for asking a very, very fascinating question. And thank you, Sanchari, for answering it. I have a question too, if I have your permission to ask.
Yeah.
So, I was just thinking about India's soft power projection in the context of the G20. So, how do you understand, or can you are you able to identify? Because I see a changing projection of soft power with India's increasing aspirations to emerge as the Vishwaguru. So, from a middle power to a great power. So, how do you see that those changes, and how does that shape the Indian strategic culture or strategic thought? And how do we see this change in the, if we analyze it from a distance, and how do we see that we would call this period in hindsight?
Very important question. Thank you for that. I think I was going to talk about Vishwaguru, because this is something, it's a concept which pertains to the civilizational ethos and culture and India's. And if we actually look at India's strategic culture, if we look at that, I think that reminds us that India is so much aware of its cultural heritage, civilizational ethos, and I think this Vishwaguru concept is another. I was going to talk about this about the identities. I think projecting one's identity, this is very, very important when different countries do that to project one's identity, and such identities actually this is helping India, which is India is that India aspires to be a global player in the international stage. So I think Vishwaguru is a very pertinent concept, and soft power is definitely adding onto that particular concept. But again, I would say that it is not only soft power alone that can do that. Of course, we have progressed a lot, and the entire world is aware. Entire world is so much aware about India's civilizational ethos, and every country is talking about different aspects of soft culture that is promoted by India. From yoga to culture to heritage to all kinds of, it's a mixture, I think, a semblance we can say. But at the same time, India needs to be more vocal in its hard power as well. And that can complement the entire Indian foreign policy.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, there is me. I have a question. I am Dr. Priya here. Sanchari, the presentation was excellent, and I would like to congratulate you. I just have a question. In the recent few days, we've been seeing that Prime Minister Modi has nominated India as the champion of Global South. I think if I should say, we could trace back to the 1972 when China under Deng Xiaoping had done a similar thing on the United.
There's an echo going. I'm not being able to hear it.
Can you hear me?
Can you please pardon?
Can you hear me now?
I think, ma'am, this is better. I think without the mic, it's clearer.
Yes, yes, it goes.
First, let me congratulate you, Sanchari, for an excellent presentation and
Thank you.
for taking us through this India's G20 role and highlighting on the soft power. Congratulations. I just have a quick question. India, in the recent past, we've seen several news where India has nominated itself as the champion of Global South. And that's what we hear Prime Minister Modi consciously talking in every forum. And if we could sort of correlate it, in 1972, China did similar thing under Deng Xiaoping, where China in the United Nations did speak as a liberator of third world solidarity and, spoke for Afro-Asian countries. So, after several decades, we see the same statement getting repeated again and again. I would like to, so there is what you call it as India importance or India clout that we are trying to leverage at this point of time.
Right.
Can you, in your opinion, tell me what would be the global reaction and how would China look at this?
It's a very interesting question. Very interesting question. Thank you for that question. China doesn't look at it very well. And it is so clear from China's reactions. Of course, China doesn't tell it very clearly. China doesn't want to be so vocal about it, but we can see, we can understand if we just read between the lines. Actually, we can understand that China is so uncomfortable with all the things that are happening, and China is understanding the fact that India is getting all its importance, its due importance, I would say. And also, we cannot forget the fact that China is also very aware and very conscious about its own cultural heritage being projected the entire world stage. So I would say China is absolutely very uncomfortable with all this happening on the G20 platform. China, we can already get the reactions as China's not very warm presence. We are not getting warm presence of China. Of course, there is someone or the representative coming, or you can see the presence. But again, we cannot see the entire presence of China, and they are being so uncomfortable with the entire issue, and also the global South, and India is taking over. India is voicing global South issues, and India is saying that our priorities is global South's priorities, and vice versa. So we can see that how it is uncomfortable and not at all taking it in a positive way.
Any other questions?
We have a question from one of the participants, and it says, can you compare the soft power of India and the soft power of China? There is always an India versus China question.
I think this would be like talking about soft power of China would take a lot of time. This very broad kind of question. China has been so conscious about building its economic soft power. Okay, that is, I think, much more important than anything. And China is so conscious about it, from One Belt, One Road to all kinds of giving aids to the South Asian countries like Bangladesh. And also, China is trying to be present and is trying to show its presence in all global South countries as well. So I think economic soft power is the most dominant one if you look at China's soft power tendency. China is, I mean, that's the only thing that is right now coming to my mind. But I think China is also very vocal about its ideology and values, the ethos, also the civilization. It is so dominant, so strong in voicing its civilizational ethos as well. So when we talk of values, when we talk of civilization, China is definitely doing it well. And if we try to contrast India and China, I think that's a different thing altogether, because uh, India's ideology is about so many things like strategic autonomy, and India talks about not only civilization but also, it's a mixture kind of semblance in its foreign policy approach. So there are differences, there are definitely differences, but we cannot neglect the fact that the civilization, the aspect of civilization is definitely present in both the countries. There's a similarity in this aspect.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. I would also request you to comment on the non-participation of the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping uh, on the sidelines of in the context of this G20 summit, and how do you see this?
I think I responded to this while responding to another question. That China, because China is so uncomfortable, and China doesn't want all these happening. Actually, it's not happy with all things happening. So China is, I was just reading yesterday one of the news that they haven't formally announced that Xi Jinping was not coming. Like, India got to know from other sources. So I think this is enough to show the coldness. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. That was very kind of you to take so many questions. Are there any more questions?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
2025, India is expected to.
That's the
Yeah, go ahead. Please introduce
Good afternoon,
yourself.
ma'am. My name is Manoj Chitra. I'm first year in MA International Studies. My question is that by 2025, India is expected to increase its overall renewable energy yield by 25 to 30% to reduce the reliance on non-renewable resources such as petroleum and etc. And also the country is facing a slight economic decline due to post-pandemic effects. And also the country is facing the high corn prices of fuels. Will India be able to achieve its goal within 2025 to 2030? Or it will be prolonged?
Okay, it's a good question, but again, it's something. We have to see in the future whether India can do this or not, and we have to wait. We have to keep waiting to see whether India can do this. It has actually promised to do so many things by 2030, and of course, India is. I think we already know about solar power, solar alliance that India has taken. This initiative, and it is definitely talking about renewable energy sources and trying to solve the problems of renewable energy sources. So one positive thing that I would like to add here is I think India is at least trying to consider these problems. This is very important, because in the past we have had so many times we have seen that there is a big gap between the global south and global north as far as environmental problems are concerned, and global north is not at all ready to take the responsibilities. So here I think India is so vocal about the problems, and this is going to take us far in the future. Whether India can solve its problem or India can actually keep the words that it promised, that is yet to see. But I think by the present times that we are going, we can analyze, we can definitely come to the conclusion that considering these problems, voicing these problems, and also taking the countries of the global south along with India, that is a big achievement.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Aksia from Second Year International Studies. So my question is that
what are the potential challenges and limitations of laying on soft power in global politics in this G20?
Challenges we have definitely, how many aspects, how many things we're talking about, from climate change to energy security to food security, all kinds of problems that we have. We can talk about even in climate change problem also, because technologies need to work positively. Even if we talk about technological advancements, that need to be on the right track. That is very important. And as far as the challenges, the first question that I got from one of the students about the gender divide, this is something which is definitely a challenge, because it is not only the responsibility of the leaders, it is the responsibility of the mindsets of people. How people or the society or the communities, when we talk of communities and societies, that is the most important aspect when we talk of solving the problem of gender divide. Because even if leaders take certain decisions, it doesn't stop there. The communities and societies need to get rid of the stigma and the social stigma. Only then education for women, and no matter how many policies we are talking about, single girl child, or education for all the women and everything. But society needs to be improved, and communities need to be more aware of women problems. So I think this is one of the most important challenges that lies ahead.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. We have Abhishek, who wants to join.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just a small perspective, it's not a question. You were speaking about, Shali ma'am was speaking about hard power, and Sanchari ma'am was speaking about the soft power. So just an alternate perspective from my end. I think gradually, when I look at the way India is projecting itself since past, I would say 5 to 7 years. So I would say that looking at it from the binary, whether of hard power or soft power, whether India is projecting itself as a hard power or soft power, it's a combination of both. And speaking from a theoretical perspective, if I will put it under the term of being a smart power. India is projecting itself as a smart power. The concept was given by, again, Joseph Nye in, I guess, around 2009. So it's a perfect blend, I think, which India, the way India is moving ahead at the high table of international politics. Whether you look at the responses of India at the Galwan clashes that took place, or the Balakot airstrike, or if you look at the way India is gradually projecting itself as a civilizational state, the counter of which, again, China is also trying to project itself. So the projection of India as a civilizational state, helping the global south, the vaccine diplomacy. So all these combined, I think, and especially under the leadership of Dr. Jaishankar and the foreign ministry, the way it is handling the international issues. So I feel it's a perfect blend of both hard power and soft power. And again, having an academic background, so I would like to put it in the term of having a smart power. So India is growing as a smart power. This is my personal take on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this perspective. Absolutely, I agree completely. It's a mixture, as I already told the same while responding to one of the questions. India is trying from both the ends. That is a very important thing, because when we talk of smart powers, it involves both hard power and soft power. And we all know that any civilization or culture or projecting one's identity won't work, actually. So India is also trying to increase its economic capabilities, and definitely when we talk of the maritime power, how India is so much trying hard to increase its maritime power, defense capabilities. So I think it's a mixture of both powers. Definitely agree completely.
Thank you so much, Sanchari. I would now request Dr. Suresh to present the concluding remarks, because Dr. Kishor is facing some technical difficulties and he has not been able to make it to the webinar. So, requesting ma'am to please.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So in conclusion, the webinar has provided us with very, very valuable insights into the assessment of India's role in the G20 summit. Thanks to Sanchari Ghosh, for presenting, highlighting the multifaceted dimensions of India's contribution from economic and geopolitical perspectives to its commitment to sustainable development and addressing global challenges. Thank you so much. I think you've held the floor for almost an hour. Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
As we reflect on the discussion and analysis that's been shared today, it's clear that India's active engagement in the G20 has not only strengthened its position on the global stage, but has also played a pivotal role in shaping the agenda for inclusive growth and cooperation. We must continue to monitor India's effort within the G20 closely, recognizing its actions and decisions, which will have far-reaching implications not only for the citizens, but for the global community as well. I'd like to thank once again our distinguished panelists, Ms. Sanchari Ghosh, for a very insightful presentation. Our organizer, Indo-Pacific Circle. Special thanks to Rushali and Zitini for putting this entire program into perspective. And, we are also doing this kind of a webinar for the first time. So we look forward to more such programs. So thank you all for joining us. And I also would like to thank the participants from other colleges. And I look forward for a future discussion and collaboration in a collective pursuit of a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was wonderful to have your participation, all the students who joined us today, and our esteemed panelists, Ms. Sanchari Ghosh. We look forward to many such webinars and collaborations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sanchari.